So I want to take this moment to transition to our third segment, which is on best practices. And I think some of the things that we discussed as a group before when we were talking about doing this panel was we wanted to talk about what are some of the things people need to be thinking about in best practices with regard to security. How do I keep my business secure? And what are some of the best practices in terms of deploying cloud for my small business? And are there some mistakes you've seen people make that I could avoid stepping into? What are some of the things you've seen in cloud deployments in smaller businesses? And so I'll start with Jean. Give me some of your thoughts on what you see as best practices for businesses to be deploying cloud for their company.
Well, I had my 5 little points I was going to make, but I think the indication that you need it may be that this awareness of needing the security is pretty much everywhere, particularly when it came to ransomware, because it can hit anybody. And in fact, it's hit school districts. It's hit small companies. It's hit medium companies. It's even hit large companies, quite frankly. But this ransom threat is you don't have your data all backed up and protected, and you don't have it air gapped, and you don't have it over there where nobody can get it. And they take your data and they hold it hostage. And if you don't pay them whatever it is, $1 million, they're not going to give it back to you. This is where you can be proactive. And if you cannot back up and protect and all that, your data yourself, this is where going to the cloud makes super a lot of sense. Because so in other words, ransomware, if you've seen that in your state there was ransomware attacks, you have to protect yourself. We're all on the internet, we're all in the same soup, and it could affect anybody of any size.
So I ran a cybersecurity company, and you'll be interested to know that the average fee from for a ransomware, the average ransom is $11,000.
Oh, not as bad.
Incredibly, we hear about the ones that are really large, but this is why it's so relevant to small businesses, because they would get hit with a 10,000, and then 2 months later a 20,000, and then a year later another 15,000. So it's a big deal,
and it disrupts your business.
Exactly.
So how much are you losing every day when you're shut down?
Yeah, let me, to the point we're talking about now, one of the research groups that I'm involved in MIT is a group focused on cybersecurity. And as you can imagine, that's a very hot topic these days for all the reasons we are discussing. And it's such a difficult topic because what happens with cybersecurity is that, actually, it's like the battle we're having with the virus. Like, we do something, we develop a vaccine, and the virus says, "You bastards, I'm going to show you that I'm going to evolve and try to bypass," and then we get Delta, and we say, "We're going to show you, we're going to develop an even better vaccine," and then we get Omicron, and so on. And there is an escalating problem, and that's the case with cybersecurity, that since you get hit from lots of people from all sides, we're spending more and more time online, there is this constant battle between what the bad guys are doing and what you can defend yourself. And it's very difficult for a small, medium-sized, and even some large businesses to keep up. That's one of the areas, to be honest, where my advice would be, look, the cloud companies, these things take a lot of skills. They have the money to throw at getting the absolutely best and brightest with the skills to protect and develop new things. So this is the opposite of what I said before with email. Yeah, email is a commodity service, so that's an easy one. Things like cybersecurity in today's world is one of the toughest. And when things get really tough, that's why one of the reasons so many companies are putting critical applications with cloud service providers, because they should know what to do better. Jean, I don't know if you are finding that. You brought up security.
I did. I just totally agree that why leave yourself open to some of these things, particularly the ransomware, which strikes fear into my heart, definitely, if I'm running a business. But I think there can be a comfort level in knowing that your new cloud service provider can really save you in those instances. You might be offline for several days or a week if you don't take some steps to improve your security. Yeah.
You know, if I go back to the question of what are some of the best practices, because we talked a lot about security, and I think that's, of course, as a data person, it's all about the data, right? Securing the data, protecting the data, backing up the data. The other thing that's important is not to think of a cloud migration or a cloud adoption as only a cost, from a cost perspective, that, kind of companies that just did it for cost. If you're just going to do it for cost, then you should really manage it correctly, because just like anything else, just like a credit card, you have to manage the cost. But those that are better, that have more success with cloud, also looked at it as a way to modernize and a way to improve, and not just as reducing cost. So that's another best practice, Brenda, that I've seen as well.
So basically, we really are talking about having sort of this core capability in the cloud providers of security and data, and basically all of the sort of change management, those things that are hard to do, and they take highly skilled technical resources, and it's not, for a small business owners, probably not worth investing in those resources. So one of the best practices is looking at what resources do you want to be responsible for developing, and then what resources do you not want to be responsible, and then focus on moving things that will offload some of that technical capability that is, in the case of cyber and in data management, are highly skilled and expensive resources.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, another big area, and I think this came up before, is AI. Now, I'm just reading a new report out of Stanford. They put out every year an AI index report, and the 2022 AI index just came out. And what they're saying is, boy, AI is really taking off out there. It's advancing rapidly. It's finally making it out there. And, some of the applications may be as chatbots, where for simple customer service things, you can interact with your customers with a chatbot rather than needing a lot of customer service. And you said, Irving, you've got to be kidding. You want me to learn weird stuff like machine learning, deep learning, whatever? No, because in fact, there are providers that have done a lot of research here, that have very good chatbots, that can then customize their chatbots to your data, to your business, and they are the ones who have all that data. So you can start getting into areas like AI, not having to understand the technology, just use it like an application. It's an application that somebody is very good at, that you can now start taking advantage of and start saving some money and provide better customer service. And as, let me just say, as AI keeps advancing and getting more in the marketplace, there'll be more and more applications like that that you can take advantage without having to learn a thing about machine or deep learning.
Right. And
Yeah.
Brenda, I'm sorry, Brenda, I want to come up back to business basics in case people think that talking about cloud is esoteric and I don't need it. But it really comes down to we've been through some rough times the last 2 years. We've had remote work. We've had ransomware. We've had all these things thrown at us as owners of SMBs. Actually, I can include myself in that. And I don't have a lot of resources to help me. And if this is a way to get more resources and to contain costs, whether CapEx or potentially OpEx if things go well, and to get into it gradually, I think that's the thing. Even big companies are getting into it gradually. They don't throw a switch and boom, I'm on the cloud. They take one area, as you said, Brenda, and I think Maria as well. You take one area, you try that. You take another, oh, that worked out well with HR. Oh, okay. Now I'm going to do financials, whatever. And move into it slowly as your confidence grows. And you don't have to take everything. You might be able to keep one or two favorite applications or more than that, but you don't have to throw the switch. It's not like that. It's like you get in, you do more if you're still happy with it. And they say about cloud, pay as you go. Pay for what you use. The utility model that Irving talked about earlier. Pay what you use, and if you don't need it, don't need all the capacity and everything, dial it back and take it to a level where you're more comfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jean, Maria, you had a comment.
Yeah, I was going to add to what Irving was saying about AI and ML, and this is from what we're doing inside our companies. What you're going to see is the applications, whether that's an HR application or a customer application, those providers of those applications will start having content that is AI specific. So it's not like it's a bolt on that you're going to add. It's going to be part of that application. So you're going to get it out of the box. And when you sign on to these applications, that's kind of the beauty of going to the cloud, that you have all these technologies. But what I was going to say too is, we've said a lot of great things about cloud, but I also some worry points is also, it's like any other investment, right? You have to build the trust, but you also have to verify. So it's not like, okay, everything's going to the cloud, wash my hands of all this and everything's good. Establish what you want to have as your metrics for success. Is it a cost? Is it because you want to, take some manual processes? So you establish a way to gauge and have some checks and balances too.
That's an excellent point. Now, I'll tell you, sometimes we talk about things like cloud and AI, and we think this is not for me. This is still, again, I'm a small business. I want to tell you that I met with a small radiology clinic, and it's only breast imagery. And they had a big problem, which is that during COVID, people didn't want to touch those touch pads, that you use to check in. They had to get rid of those and go back to paper. But then they had a lot of errors and also a lot of time to type in all that. So we created a little AI application that would scan those handwritten, because again, as Irving has said, people have been doing this. They've created capabilities that are very advanced. So the image reading like this can be done. So they were able to scan in these images of handwritten and get all the check-in done electronically without people having fear of touching, screens and so forth. So this is a tiny application for a small clinic using AI. So I don't want people to get intimidated about the fact that AI can have an impact on a small business, because there are so many companies out there developing capabilities that apply to whether you're a small sales operation, a distributor, a contract manufacturer, or a little clinic. Lots of capabilities. And again, it's a matter of, just get started. And once you start talking about what your business problems are to one provider, it will just open the door to more and more and more opportunities. So get your toe in the water and get started and find a couple of good partners to talk to. Like I said, somebody in your business association or peer group who's a little bit ahead of you and willing to share their knowledge. And I think that's a way to get moving forward. So Barry, I hope this has been helpful to your business owners, and we're very, very excited about the panel, and anxious to answer any questions that the business owners have. So if they want to send us email questions and have us field them over time, more than happy to do that as well.